What if one day everything collapsed at once? Not because you made a bad choice, not because you broke the law, but because the world just stopped giving you grace? This is Straw, a Tyler Perry film that doesn't give you a villain to hate, it gives you a mirror. It shows you how a single black mother broke, exhausted, and doing everything right ends up at the center of a hostage crisis, with the whole country watching. But before we get to the standoff, before the police lights and the crying child and the nationwide live stream, we have to go back to the morning. The morning everything fell apart. The morning routine is a tender ritual. Janiyah wakes Arya gently, her touch a shield against the harshness that awaits them outside their four walls. But even in their loving bubble, the strain is undeniable. Bills are piling up. A constant, silent scream from the corner of the kitchen counter. She is already behind on rent. Arya, a bright spark, is working on a science project. Its blinking lights a testament to her curiosity. Project Janiyah could barely afford, but couldn't deny. Every small joy is shadowed by the precariousness of their situation. After dropping Arya at school, the weight of her financial reality crashes down. The simple act of providing lunch money for her daughter becomes a monumental hurdle. She stands before a machine, her bank account nearly empty, struggling to withdraw just a few dollars to spare Arya the quiet shame of being the kid who can't afford to eat with the others. This moment, small and private, perfectly captures her dire circumstances. It is a portrait of a good mother, stretched to her absolute limit, fighting to maintain a sense of normalcy against overwhelming odds. Her anxiety is a palpable thing, a knot tightening in her chest as she heads to her job at a local grocery store, scrambling to hold their world together. But her world is about to do more than just wobble. It's about to completely unravel. Not long into her shift, Janiyah receives a distressing call from Arya's school principal. The words that come through the phone are every parent's nightmare. Child Protective Services are at the school. They are threatening to take Arya away. The reason? Staff discovered bruises on the little girl's back. Panic ignites. Janiyah drops everything and flees her post, the commands of her frustrated boss, Richard, fading behind her. She knows the truth. The bruises are innocent, the result of a harmless slip Arya had in their bathtub, a simple accident. It is a testament to the lack of compassion she faces that this emergency is seen by her boss as a mere inconvenience. She races to the school to defend herself, to defend her parenting, to protect her child from a devastating misunderstanding. But by the time she arrives, it's too late. The system has already passed its judgment. Authorities, believing Arya to be unsafe at home, have removed her from Janiyah's care. Janiyah can only watch in absolute horror as her daughter is taken from her, her heart shattering at the thought of losing the one and only thing that gives her life meaning. This is the first major turning point, the moment the ground gives way beneath her feet. The only light in her world has been extinguished, leaving her reeling in a darkness she has never known. Reeling from the trauma of having her child torn from her arms, Janiyah's day descends from tragedy into a waking nightmare. She is in her car, a vessel carrying a mother's grief, when she encounters a new, more visceral threat. An aggressive driver, radiating rage, nearly runs her off the road. The encounter escalates into a terrifying traffic stop. The man is a police officer, Officer Oliver, and his authority is a weapon. He menaces her, his words dripping with a venomous contempt that has nothing to do with traffic laws and everything to do with power and prejudice. In this moment, her fragility is her crime. Her expired driver's license, a casualty of her financial struggles, becomes the justification for his cruelty. He confiscates it, stripping her of her identity, and as a final act of punishment, he has her car impounded. She is left shaken, stranded, and utterly alone on the side of the road as the rain begins to fall, a cold baptism into a new level of despair. Each step of her long trudge back to her workplace is a testament to her powerlessness, her world shrinking with every drop of rain that soaks her clothes. She returns to the grocery store not as an employee, but as a pariah. Her boss, Richard, his patience already worn thin by her earlier disappearance, offers no shred of sympathy for the crisis that has engulfed her life. He is angry she abandoned her shift. He reprimands her harshly, his words hitting her with the force of stones. In a final, devastating act of cruelty, he fires her on the spot. When she begs for her final paycheck, the money she desperately needs, the money she promised her daughter, he coldly refuses, promising only to mail it later. Dismissed, empty-handed, and now unemployed, Janiyah makes her way home on foot under a darkening, hostile sky. But there is no home left to go to. Her return delivers the day's final, soul-crushing blow. Her landlord has followed through on the threat of eviction. All of her worldly possessions, the meager artifacts of her and Arya's life together, have been tossed out and scattered on the curb, soaking in the cold rain. In the space of just a few hours, Janiyah has lost her child, her car, her job, and her home. She is left with nothing but the clothes on her back and a grief so profound it threatens to swallow her whole. It is here, on her knees, on the wet pavement, that Janiyah Wilkinson is pushed past the brink of collapse and into the terrifying abyss that lies beyond. In the depths of her despair, surrounded by the ruins of her life on a wet sidewalk, a single, desperate thought takes root in Janiyah's mind: her final paycheck. It is more than just money. It is her only lifeline, her only hope to salvage something from the wreckage of the day. She believes it is the key to buying Arya's medicine, perhaps even to fighting for her daughter's return. With nothing left to lose, she turns back and heads towards the grocery store one last time, determined to plead with her former boss, Richard, for the wages she is owed. She finds Richard still at the store, and she begins to beg him for her check. But at that very moment, the fragile piece of the empty store is shattered. Two masked men burst in, armed and intent on robbery. Janiyah and Richard are forced at gunpoint into a back room, their pleas ignored as the robbers demand they load cash into a bag. The air is thick with terror, but the situation takes an eerie, personal turn. One of the armed thieves glances at Janiyah's work uniform, at the small plastic name tag pinned to her chest, and speaks her name. "Janiyah," he says, ordering her to hurry. In that instant, the dynamic shifts. Richard shoots her a suspicious glare. In his mind, a terrible logic forms. Why would a stranger know her name unless she was involved? The seed of mistrust is planted at the worst possible moment. Adrenaline surges, chaos erupts. Seeing a chance to fight back, Janiyah seizes the opportunity. In a desperate scuffle, she manages to wrestle one of the robber's guns away from him. A shot rings out in the confined space. In what can only be described as a primal act of self-defense, she shoots and kills him. The second masked man, stunned by the sudden violence, drops the bag of money and flees the scene, vanishing into the night. Silence descends, broken only by Janiyah's ragged breaths. She barely has a moment to process what has just happened before she is betrayed. Richard, panicked and consumed by his suspicion, lunges for the phone to call 911. As Janiyah listens, she hears him accuse her of orchestrating the entire botched robbery. To him, she is not a victim. She is a conspirator. This accusation is the final, unbearable cruelty. After a day of being ignored, dismissed, and punished by the world, this betrayal from her boss pushes her over an invisible line. In a haze of shock, betrayal, and unthinking fear, Janiyah snaps. As Richard is mid-sentence with the 911 operator, she impulsively pulls the trigger. She shoots her boss, killing him on the spot. The sound of the gunshot echoes in the sudden, terrible silence. She is immediately horrified by her own action, a wave of revulsion washing over her. Her morality is in tatters. She stumbles forward, grabs the paper check from the Desno, stained with a speck of blood, and staggers out of the store, leaving 2 bodies in her wake. She has crossed a line from which there is no return, a victim who has now become a killer. Covered in blood and clutching the crumpled, stained paycheck, Janiyah moves like a sleepwalker through the night. In her traumatized, half-delirious state, her mind has narrowed to a single, desperate focus: helping Arya. She believes if she can just get cash in hand, she can somehow reverse the day's horrors and set things right. She staggers across the street to a small, local bank, a beacon of order in her world of chaos. She is a ghost at the feast, her work uniform smeared with the evidence of the violence she just endured and committed. Inside the bank, she presents the check. But the ordinary rules of the world still apply. A world she is no longer a part of. Policy is policy. The bank employees cannot cash her check without a valid photo ID. It is a cruel, bureaucratic irony. The very license that was confiscated from her by a vindictive police officer is now the final barrier between her and her only remaining goal. She has no words left to plead her case, no energy left to explain the impossible series of events that led her here. She is exhausted, soaked, and desperate beyond the limits of reason. Janiyah reaches her breaking point. In a moment of pure, unthinking despair, she wordlessly pulls the handgun from her bag, the gun she took from the robber, and sets it on the counter. It is not an act of aggression, but a silent, final plea. A desperate attempt to intimidate the staff into giving her the money she believes is rightfully hers. But the sight of the weapon, coupled with her blood-soaked appearance, sends a wave of terror through the bank. The bank manager, Nicole, reacts swiftly and silently, alerting the authorities and initiating the bank's emergency protocols. Heavy security doors lock down with a deafening clang, trapping Janiyah and everyone else inside. The situation is made infinitely worse by a terrible coincidence. Nicole notices strange blinking lights coming from inside Janiyah's tote bag. It is Arya's electronic science project, which Janiyah has been carrying all day. Fearing it could be an explosive device, Nicole relays a bomb threat to the police. In a matter of minutes, what began as a desperate plea for help has escalated into a full-blown hostage crisis. The innocent bank customers and employees are now her hostages, cowering as she paces in agony. The gun now a symbol of a reality she never intended. Though she never planned any of this, Janiyah now finds herself in the role of a dangerous criminal, inadvertently holding an entire bank captive. As police sirens wail outside and the building is surrounded, the horrifying realization dawns on her face. The day's series of unfortunate events have led her to this nightmarish, irreversible crossroads. Outside the bank, a fortress of law enforcement assembles. A tense standoff begins, with the lives of everyone inside hanging in the balance. Amidst the chaos, Detective Kay Raymond arrives to take charge of the negotiations. She is a skilled, hard-nosed officer, but as soon as she learns Janiyah's identity and begins to piece together the day's events, she finds an unexpected, undeniable common ground with the woman inside. Like Janiyah, Detective Raymond is a single mother who understands the crushing weight of desperation and how it can drive good people to the very edge. Using a secure phone line patched into the bank, Detective Raymond establishes a fragile connection with Janiyah, her voice a steady anchor in the storm of fear and confusion. While she works to keep Janiyah calm, her team gathers background information. She reviews the surveillance footage from the grocery store robbery, and the images confirm a critical detail. Janiyah was not a willing participant, but a victim caught in the crossfire. Her initial act was one of self-defense, not conspiracy. This insight is reinforced when officers interview a man from her neighborhood, a homeless man named Benny. He attests that Janiyah is a kind soul, a woman who, despite having almost nothing herself, always found spare change to help him out. These small pieces of her history paint a portrait that clashes violently with the image of a dangerous criminal. It convinces Raymond that she is not dealing with a monster, but a woman drowning in a horrific situation. Janiyah's actions inside the bank further reveal her true character. She insists that the frightened bystanders be freed, allowing them to leave once it is safe. She has no desire to harm anyone. Eventually, all the innocent customers are freed, at Janiyah's own insistence. Yet one person chooses to remain inside voluntarily. Nicole, the bank manager. Over the course of the standoff, she has grown deeply sympathetic to Janiyah's plight, recognizing her not as a captor, but as a mother in unimaginable distress. In a moment of profound vulnerability, Janiyah tearfully entrusts Nicole with a sacred plea. If anything happens to her, Nicole must promise to take care of Arya. She begs her to make sure the little girl can visit her, even if she's behind bars. Moved by this selfless maternal love, Nicole's resolve to help her hardens. In her conversations with Detective Raymond, Janiyah reveals her deepest fear. She is terrified to surrender because one of the responding officers outside is Officer Oliver, the same cop who terrorized her earlier. She is convinced he will kill her on the spot. Taking this threat with the utmost seriousness, Raymond sleuths through traffic citation records and quickly identifies Oliver as the officer who pulled Janiyah over. In a bold and stunning move, Detective Raymond confronts Oliver at the scene. She physically ejects him from the police line, making it clear his misconduct has made him a liability. To fully gain Janiyah's trust, Raymond then breaks protocol. She walks right up to the bank's entrance, holding up her phone to show Janiyah a photo of Oliver, proving that the threat has been removed. This incredible act of good faith is a turning point. It shows Janiyah that someone in a position of power is finally listening to her, finally believes her, and is actively working to ensure her safety. After a day of being failed by every person and every system, the empathy shown by these two women inside the bank and one outside, Janiyah a glimmer of hope that surrendering may not mean a death sentence after all. Just as it appears the standoff is nearing a peaceful end, just as Janiyah prepares to emerge and give herself up, a phone call comes through to the bank. It is her mother, Dolores. Nicole passes the phone to Janiyah, who expects to coordinate her surrender. Instead, the words she hears on the other end of the line detonate the very foundations of her reality. Her mother delivers the news. Arya is dead. Dolores explains that Arya tragically died of a severe seizure the night before. Janiyah is consumed by confusion and denial. It can't be true. She insists she was just with her daughter, that she saw her and spoke to her that very morning. But then, her mind splinters. A series of gut-wrenching flashbacks realigns her memory with the horrifying truth. We see her where she really was the previous night, in a hospital room, cradling Arya's small, still body as her illness finally claimed her. The trauma was too intense for her psyche to bear, and so her mind broke, constructing an alternate reality to shield her from the unbearable loss. The entire day was a hallucination born of grief. Waking Arya, the school drop-off, the promise of lunch money. It was all a fiction her mind invented to cope. The panicked call from the school was not about Child Protective Services. It was a misremembered, mundane call about an overdue lunch bill. The threat of her daughter being taken was a projection of her deepest fear, a more bearable scenario than the finality of death. Janiyah finally realizes the awful, suppressed truth. Arya was never taken by the state. She was already gone. This revelation causes her last emotional pillar to crumble completely. She collapses in a tidal wave of sorrow, mourning her child for the very first time. At this exact moment, an FBI tactical team, fearing the worst, prepares to storm the building. In her mind's eye, Janiyah sees her greatest fear manifest. A violent breach, a hail of bullets, her own death in a swirl of tear gas. But this shocking violence is only a hallucination. In reality, Nicole, having been informed of Arya's death by the police, is talking her down from the figurative ledge. She gently convinces the despairing mother that she must surrender, that she must live on, if not for herself, then in memory of her daughter. With tears streaming down her face, Janiyah agrees. She removes the bullets from the handgun and drops the weapon. In a poignant gesture of solidarity, Nicole takes Janiyah by the hand. Together, they walk out of the bank's front doors, their hands raised in the air. Outside, the law enforcement line holds their fire as Detective Raymond rushes forward to meet them, physically placing herself between Janiyah and the agitated FBI team, ensuring no misunderstanding turns into bloodshed. As officers lead Janiyah away, she is met with an astonishing sight. A large crowd has gathered, chanting in solidarity, holding signs, voicing their outrage at a system that failed her. After feeling invisible and ignored all day, Janiyah finally realizes that someone sees her, that her story has been heard. It is a moment of overwhelming, bittersweet catharsis. Detective Raymond handcuffs her gently, treating her with a dignity that had been absent from her entire day. Before being placed in the police car, Janiyah turns to Nicole and whispers a heartfelt thank you for saving her life. The ending is complex and heartbreaking. Janiyah has lost everything, yet in surviving, and in having her humanity recognized by Nicole, Detective Raymond, and the crowd, she has gained a sliver of grace. Her story, born from a mother's profound love and a society's profound indifference, is a tragedy that might just spark a conversation, a testament to the resilience of a spirit pushed to its last straw. The story of Janiyah Wilkinson is a powerful and tragic reminder of how close any of us can be to a breaking point. It highlights the invisible struggles that millions face every day and the devastating consequences that can occur when a society fails to show compassion. Her journey forces us to ask ourselves, how many straws can a person bear before they finally break? Thank you for reading. If this story moved you, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel for more deep dives into the films that challenge us.